Ryan Carroll here at PowerXStrength.com HQ in Jacksonville, Florida. Going to do a little bit of an update on where my training is going and what my plans are over the next few weeks. I had a question from Eric Stone about 2 weeks ago asking me how I'm implementing accommodating resistance, meaning bands and chains, into my current linear progression or overload training, the way I train and pretty much have trained throughout my career of lifting. If you want to call it a career, whatever. It's really a hobby, but we take it serious, as a lot of people would tell you, and people that have been doing it for a long time. It's definitely more than a hobby, but whatever it is you want to call it. What I've done is I've implemented the bands and the chains in different waves of my training so far in this off season, and I've just used RPE. So instead of having to worry about determining how much bar weight, what percentage of my max it is, how much band tension, I've just been going off RPE and tried to stay following the typical progressions in the off season. So for instance, I would load the bar up with the bands and then add some weight on there and then work up to the RPE for the day, whether it be a 7 or 8. And a lot of the times it was heavier than I expected. So I exceeded the RPE sometimes. But that's pretty much how I've added in the bands and chains. So for instance, 3 weeks ago, we started another mini cycle. It was 2 weeks. First week, I went up to 405 plus the strong, the average, and the light band. So that was 425 pounds of pressure at the top. In the first week, I worked up to 415. Then the following week, I worked up to a top single of 465, which was easier than the 415. And then last week we deloaded. Next phase, or next little mini cycle that we're gonna do is gonna consist of chains at about 250 pounds at the top, and just about all the chains will be off the ground at the top, or all of them will be off the ground. So we're gonna work on stability a little bit, as the bands tend to plant you in the ground and keep you in almost like a Smith machine pattern, where the bar path is really tight and strict. So we're gonna go the opposite, and we're gonna create some instability with the chains and give our body a break from all the band tension that we've done off and on for the better part of the last 15 weeks or so. So I'm looking to do a meet probably in December, and I'm gonna slowly come off the accommodating resistance for a few weeks and then start ramping up. And I think chains is a good segue to ramping up before I go back to the straight bar and the squat. Bench press is gonna be a lot more the same. I'm gonna start putting my bench shirt on as my assistance work. So I've been doing close grip for a long time now off my chest for my assistance work or my secondary exercise before moving on to something incline. But now I'm just gonna throw my shirt on for that time and start working up little by little and doing it that way. And I don't plan on having a full training cycle for December. I'm gonna lift at 308, whether I weigh 276 or I weigh 296. But I need to start getting my weight down like I talked about in the last video, because I don't feel good at 300 pounds. It's a little too much for me. And thankfully, nothing really hurts. Everything is just kind of too tight. And there's no pain, but I don't necessarily feel good at 300 pounds. So the plan is still the same for the deadlift. I'm not gonna do too much different for that. I'm gonna pull off the blocks. I might do a little bit of chain work in the next cycle. It's kind of hard to set the chains up on the deadlift. So we're gonna kind of work on that a little bit. But it looks like Dondell Blue and I will be competing in December to get qualified for March. Of course, Blue would lift at the XPC Raw meet on Saturday, and I'd be lifting at the semifinals at the Arnold on Friday. So that's what we're shooting for, to get qualified for that. I'm looking forward to going up and watching the WPO finals in Chicago, or just outside Chicago, in a couple weeks. And I'm looking forward to getting strong, and everything's feeling pretty good. I'm just coming off a deload like I've talked about, and I'll be ramping up with chains this weekend and eventually getting back to the straight bar, because I've been using the Duffalo bar most of the time, and it's been really good on my shoulders as I've been rehabbing that. Haven't had any issues with my shoulder with pressing, with squatting, or with deadlifting. So I'm very grateful for that. So that's where I'm at right now with my training. That's how I'm using accommodating resistance. It's not any kind of meticulous or brilliant formula. It's just working off RPE for the day. And there's probably better ways to use it than that, but I don't want to overthink my training at this point. And I just wanted to get enough volume and enough intensity in different ways to kind of switch it up, because I trained that way to start with. When I first started training with Adam in 2003, we trained a heavily conjugate-based program. So we did box squats all the time. We did a lot of board presses. We did max effort. We did speed work. We did bands. We did chains. We did good mornings. We did all that. So I think it was nice for me to, a good idea for me to kind of come back to my roots and switch things up a little bit. You get kind of stagnant after doing it for a long time, and it was a good time to do that. So with the new gym and the new crew. So I'm in a good place, very happy with training. I'm ticking down my body weight little by little, and I'm feeling pretty good. I'm gonna enjoy this deload and then crank up Saturday. Thanks for tuning in.